Wanna be left on the shelf, couldn't even hear me if I yelled. It's so cold outside, I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside, I'm alone. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Before Earth becomes the target of an alien invasion. So the poll asked people, well, how would you survive an alien invasion? How would you survive one? Well, this is how the Brits would do it. The 18 top recommendations rely on experts, okay? You hear experts, maybe that would be doing reruns of this webinar or other people's webinars, watch Stephen Greer's Cosmic Hoax, whatever. Panic, okay, it's a response. 3, pop to the supermarket for essentials. Good idea, go get the toilet paper and so forth. Barricade, 4, barricade all your doors and windows. Let's lock all the doors, okay, good advice. Escape to the countryside, get away from the urban centers. Definitely the first place that the aliens would show up. 6, turn off the lights at home and hope the aliens think they're not in. Okay, yeah, that's the strategy from, what was it, the Tom Cruise movie, War of the Worlds? I think that's one of the strategies. Turn off all the lights and hide in the basement. Put the kettle on, very British. Okay, we're just gonna make a cup of tea. Build a bunker, very American. Build a bunker, deep bunker. Number 9, stock up on loo roll, toilet paper. Number 10, fashion a weapon using household objects. Very cool, you know. Develop a big Swiss Army knife so that you could deal with aliens who show up. Phone work to tell them you're not going to be in. Okay, be very responsible. Tell your boss you're not going to show up. Google Bear Grylls survival advice. Okay, he's a British survivalist and he gives good advice in how to survive in nature. So he would be a good one to give you advice on how to survive an alien invasion. Drive to the nearest cave and live there for a bit. Fair enough. Okay, good. Hide under the bed. They did that in, I think, 1960s, 70s. They taught Americans how to survive a nuclear attack. Hide under the desk. Well, hide under the bed. Good idea. Research alien invasions by watching an alien invasion movies. Okay, so you've got your list now. So you can survive the alien invasion by watching that list of movies and series that I just cited. Bake the aliens a cake in the hope of befriending them. Okay, don't show up with your household weapon, but just give them a cake. Ring parents for advice. Fair enough. Seize the day and finally tell a secret crush you're feeling. Okay, tell that person who you've loved all your life but just didn't have the courage to tell her, you know, whatever you feel. Okay, these are all the strategies for surviving an alien invasion according to the British. Maybe the American strategy wouldn't be all that different. So now we move to the final category, UFO experts. So what do the leading UFO researchers have to say on this? We've seen in the United States over the last 12 months or so, in the lead up to this UAP report, people like Luis Elizondo, a member and former head of the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, ATIP, from 2008 to 2017. He and Nick Pope, who also headed Britain's UFO desk from 1991 to 1994. These two guys are the official resident government experts that are both retired now from government, but during their careers actually worked on UFO desks that were officially responsible for investigating UFO reports. So these are the experts that have been trotted out on Tucker Carlson, NBC, CBS, CNN reports, Anderson Cooper. They keep bringing these guys on. And what do they have to say about alien invasions? Well, they're saying, yeah, It's a threat. The preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena that came out on June 25, and that framed the whole UFO issue in terms of it being a threat. Here on page 6, it refers to it as UAP threaten flight safety and possibly national security. So there you have it. These UAPs that are being cited, they are a national security threat. So UAPs pose a hazard to safety of flight and could pose a broader danger if some instances represent a sophisticated collection against US military activities by a foreign government or demonstrate a breakthrough aerospace technology by potential adversaries. So they're pitching it at China or Russia having achieved some kind of breakthrough aerospace technology, but not exclusive. In other words, there could be extraterrestrials there. It's just they're laying open the possibility. So far, the UFO experts, they are the ones that are giving a particular slant on the UAP report and on the possibility of an extraterrestrial event. So this takes me back now to Stephen Greer. And as I said at the beginning, his documentary that just came out, The Cosmic Hoax, really does lay out the case, as he believes it, for this imminent false flag alien invasion. And so he and different experts that are interviewed in this documentary lay out their scenario for this alien invasion. And they believe it's being cooked up by the people that have been controlling the suppression of the advanced technologies that have been developed over many decades from reverse engineering of captured extraterrestrial spacecraft. So this is what Stephen Greer has to say. This is a short clip I want to show from The Cosmic Hoax, laying out this alien false flag invasion and how it is part of this elite spin that they want to put on extraterrestrials, portraying them as a threat in order for them to build a new generation of space weapons. So let's play the video, Jazz, please.
For a complete fascist takeover, the men behind the curtain will have to play their final card, a cosmic 9/11.
This temptation to generate a false flag attack on the part of some extraterrestrial civilization, you even hear people like Ronald Reagan make reference to it.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Wouldn't it be clear if we all of a sudden found ourselves being attacked by an extraterrestrial civilization? We'd finally all come together. Wouldn't that be really lovely? Well, it's not really lovely for the industrial state. They don't want to lose their other enemies first. They want to use up all that before they go to that extreme.
The last card was the most profound experience I had in my whole life. And I accepted the mission. And until Stephen Greer picked me up and talked me into going to the Disclosure Project, when I had just about given up, that's when I saw that there were other witnesses to what's going on, to the truth, to the facts.
When she told me what Werner von Braun had said, it didn't surprise me, because I had previously met with a number of people in the defense industry and in the intelligence community who had already told me that there was such a plan and that it could be actuated at any moment. And that was one of the long-term agendas, was keep the technologies away so we can maintain our industrial base of fossil fuel and all of this. When we're ready to pull the trigger on releasing this information, spin it in the direction that benefits the foxes guarding the henhouse, the people holding these secrets. But it was interesting to hear that all the way back in the early 70s that he had been warning her about this. And we know that those systems were developed actually in the late 40s and 50s.
So there you have Stephen Greer, Carl Rosen, and Danny Sheen laying out the case for this corporate, big government, military-industrial complex rollout of an alien invasion event to trick the American people so that weapons and armaments could be built for the next generation. Now, who is Danny Sheen? One of the people that was interviewed by Greer, and that is someone that is featured prominently in the Disclosure Project. He was trained for the Jesuit priesthood and served as general counsel to the Jesuit headquarters in Washington, D.C. That was in the 1970s for a 10-year period. And during that period, I think it was around 1974, he was given access to US Congress files on UFOs and extraterrestrial life. So he's talked about that in the Disclosure Project, how he got to see these government files after the US government wanted to get access to the Vatican files on UFOs. And so the US intelligence community approached the Vatican, and the Vatican told the US intelligence community, well, you know, you've got to speak with the Jesuit headquarters there in Washington, D.C. and work something out. So that's how Sheen got into the picture, because the US intelligence community wanted to know what the Vatican knew. And so the Vatican said, well, we'll find out what you know. And so they sent Sheen there, and that's how he got access. He was also lead counsel for Dr. Greer's Disclosure Project press conference from 2000, probably a little bit earlier. Don't know the exact date he became general counsel, but he has worked with the Disclosure Project from the beginning. So Greer and Sheen and others come up with a way of responding to people saying that, well, some aliens aren't necessarily bad, aren't necessarily good. There's a range of people, a range of extraterrestrials. And Greer and Sheen are very dismissive of the idea that some extraterrestrials are negative. In fact, they're downright hostile to anyone that says there are bad extraterrestrials out there and they're trying to do terrible things to us, or are doing terrible things to us in collaboration with official agencies or working with the Catholic Church. So this is what Greer and Sheen have to say. Again, please play the video.
Many people who would consider themselves New Age and into all this stuff fall into these camps of, well, there are the good aliens and the bad aliens. The good aliens almost always look like someone from Norway, and the bad ones have different features and maybe darker. I'm going, this is racism. You just call it out what it is. This is absolutely racism extrapolated into an interspecies level.
Not just racism, but speciesism, which is even deeper. We have to try to overcome this. We have to train ourselves.
They're hoping that we as humans evolve out of this mindset of ingrained racist tribalism and not go down the path that these covert interests want us to do and extrapolate into space, push out into space the racist world we've had. I call it exo-racism.
So there you have it. Stephen Greer introducing the idea of exo-racism, and also Danny Sheen is on board with that. So those of us in the UFO community, exopolitics community, that say that some extraterrestrials are negative, and we describe them in the form of these greys or these reptilians or these non-human looking groups, we are now, according to Greer, exo-racists. So why do Greer and Sheen dismiss the idea of negative extraterrestrials? Both embrace the idea that aliens are positive and ethically more evolved than humans, similar to the Vatican position or the Vatican astronomers. Both support Vatican initiative to acknowledge aliens as our cosmic brothers and welcome them. Okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's great to welcome extraterrestrials as potential brothers, believe that a new world religion involving extraterrestrials will incorporate Christian and other religious teachings. Well, that's certainly the Catholic position. And Stephen Greer, I know, is a Baha'i, so he does believe in this kind of eclectic mix of different major religions in a new world religion. And if the Vatican moves forward in introducing the idea of an extraterrestrial messiah, that comes up with a new religion, as the Pope seems to be implying, and we know President Obama introduced that idea as well, then Greer and Sheen would be on board. So the question is, who benefits from their endorsement of the Vatican agenda on extraterrestrial life? Because it's clear that Greer and Sheen are really behind this idea of depicting aliens in the way that the Vatican has defined it since 2008. Who benefits? Well, let's look at the connection between the Vatican and reptilians. So there's a lot of literature you can look to the connection between the Vatican and reptilians, but I think what's worth pointing out is the symbology of some of the chief meeting places or things that are used in the Catholic hierarchy, such as the Pope's audience hall in Vatican City that was inaugurated in 1971. Here you have, here's an article in Collective Evolution that shows the design of the Pope's audience hall, and it shows how that audience hall has a very similar shape architecturally on the outside to the head of a reptile. You can see the eyes, you can see the skull, the movement, how it's pretty broad at the back, but at the front, you have, it comes to the front and kind of something that might look like nostrils. So, okay, so this is architecture that some believe is resembling a reptile. Okay, if it was just that, I think it's just coincidence, fair enough. But when we look inside of the Vatican's audience hall, okay, there are other things going on here. So here's a picture of the audience hall from the back. And the interior of the papal audience hall, you can see the eyes, you can see up the front, you can see the fangs, you can see the middle, almost like the tongue extending out. And so there you have the comparison of a reptile and the Pope's audience hall. Okay, very, very unusual, very disturbing. But at this stage, you say, okay, you know, it's a second strike maybe. Okay, so the way it looks on the outside, this might be a second strike, but that's, you know, very disturbing, but it's not enough. What else is there to show that there's a connection between the Vaticans and reptilians? Well, look at the altar at the front of the papal audience hall. Now, that's supposed to be a figure of Jesus on the cross. But if you look at it closely, you can see a reptilian emerging out of all of that chaos. I don't know if you can see it. I certainly do, many others. You can see, if you look at it closely enough, you can see it shifts from being Jesus on the cross to this reptilian, kind of like in glory like that, looking to the left. If you can see the reptile head looking to the left arm from the perspective of the reptile or the being on that cross, it's like a head looking at that. That's a reptilian head. That, I think, is the third strike. The Vatican is working with reptilians. This is something I've discussed before on exopolitics.org. Others have also brought this connection up. Interestingly, someone else brought this up that I thought was very, very interesting. Elena Danan is someone I've been working with recently and might actually be is probably watching this right now. She has brought up this connection. She was told this by Valiant Thor. I don't think she's released this publicly yet. It'll be in her new book that's coming up. This is what she had to say. Valiant Thor is someone that works with the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And he told her this, quote, "The message of your Jesus Christ was about love on many levels. He was highly elevated in wisdom. This only message would have sufficed. But some leaders in your ancient times took advantage of the popularity of this man to create a system of power and mind control. Now this mind controlling power is the Vatican, infiltrated until its highest positions by those who are not your allies, the green-skinned ones. I'm not allowed to say more," end quote. So Elena is French, so the grammar might not be precise, but what she is clearly conveying here is that the green-skinned ones, the reptilians, these are the ones that are the power behind the Vatican. And that is something that is acknowledged by the Galactic Federation of Worlds. So now we have some very interesting questions we have to ask ourselves. Greer, Sheen, and the alien salvation event. So Greer, Sheen, etc., are all very vocal about the danger of a false flag alien invasion. Cosmic Hoax is well done. It's a 90-minute documentary. But they never discuss the alien salvation scenario. Why is that? It's a 90-minute documentary on the cosmic hoax. Don't you think the cosmic hoax would involve all likely scenarios involving extraterrestrials, whether it's going to be an alien invasion where they're bad guys and that's going to be fake, but also a hoax alien salvation. Precisely what Serge Manas was talking about in his book, Project Bluebeam, and the final step involving a contrived alien salvation. Why didn't they discuss this? Very important question. And I think the answer is disturbing, very, very disturbing, because I've always admired Stephen Greer. I mean, he's the reason I'm involved in this field. In 2001, I saw the Disclosure Project press conference. At the time, I was a full-time assistant professor at American University in Washington, D.C., teaching international politics. And that video changed my life. It just opened me up. It's like the bell went off. Gong! I couldn't go back to the world I once knew. I had to dive into this world of exopolitics. So I owe him a great thanks for that. But that doesn't mean I'm just an uncritical supporter. I have to look at what he's saying and look at what he's doing. And I'm very disturbed at this cosmic hoax documentary he just put out because he's only presenting one side. He's only presenting one scenario. You need to know the truth. You need to know the full truth. Maybe he's right. Maybe the alien invasion is going to be what they attempt. But don't ignore the alien salvation event, because I think that's probably more likely. So why the silence? Well, Andrew Basiago, a Washington state attorney, he says that in the early 1980s, at a gathering of CIA assets discussing teleportation and time travel technologies that he was involved in at the time, it was called the Mars Jump Gate program. He says he saw Stephen Greer there. He was part of this meeting with CIA assets that Basiago said Greer was a CIA asset in the 1980s. And so what this implies or suggests is that Greer's position on no evil aliens, which is really confusing. I mean, all of us have great admiration for what Stephen Greer has achieved in getting all those whistleblowers to go on the public record and launching the Disclosure Project. You know, we all have great admiration, respect the guy. I think that, you know, that alone is deserving of Nobel Peace Prize. But we all scratch our heads and we all kind of wonder, why the heck is he giving us this BS about all aliens are being positive? I mean, it doesn't make sense unless Greer is part of Project Bluebeam. That makes sense. So I think what's happening here is there's an alien false flag bait and switch in operation. The real alien PSYOP is to focus or misdirect the general public by getting them to get frightened about an impending alien invasion. And then you do the switcheroo. You actually have an alien salvation. So everyone is like, oh man, we were so scared. We're going to have all these really nasty aliens. But here you have these really nice aliens, like in, the movie E.T., where they're really here to help us and they're good guys. So the extraterrestrial saviors will allegedly rescue humanity from a whole host of global problems: climate change, pandemics, dwindling energy reserves, poverty, nationalism, and support the Great Reset. I'm just going to move over to the other side here. Oops. So you actually have this scenario of public officials, the Vatican, welcoming these extraterrestrials as part of this new world order that is being created. But the extraterrestrials that would be welcomed in this alien false flag bait and switch would be the very same ones that were part of the secret agreements and the deals with the Draco reptilians, the Antarctic Germans, and the grey extraterrestrials, which Stephen Greer, Danny Sheen, Carol Rosen never talk about it. Why don't they talk about the grey reptilian agreements with the secret government? They talk about meetings. They talk about, well, there were meetings and nothing ever happened of the meetings back in the 1950s. But yeah, bullshit. There was something that happened. There were agreements. So why the Greer and all of that? Why are they silent on these agreements? Because they want to put out this false narrative that all aliens are good and that all the bad we see in the world is because humans are kind of like suffering original sin and we're pretty effed up, right? That's the narrative they're putting out. And that's not true. So the alien false flag bait and switch, Corey Good in 2017, he came out in June and he revealed for his sources told him that a plan was in place for a human-looking extraterrestrial to appear either with 3 prominent world leaders or with the Pope at a major world event, and that would be official disclosure. So you would have the Pope or 3 world leaders, or maybe a combination of the two, welcoming a human-looking extraterrestrial